Welcome, new community, to a midweek podcast. A little bit of a video cast, actually. Is there a technical name for that?
Well, it may be video podcast.
Okay. Wow, that's really,
really
pretty
helpful.
Basic.
Yeah, pretty basic.
Okay,
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
We are doing interview style. So we've done some interviews in the past. This particular time, we're doing a little video interview. That way you, the watcher / listener, can get to know Joseph a little bit more and know a little bit more about his family. For those of you that do not know, Joseph just recently came on staff at New Community as the foundations pastor, or formations pastor, technically. And the emphasis, at least to start, will be primarily youth. And then we'll add some more things post-COVID to the works. But super excited to have him on staff. And
Totally.
we're going to do a little interview. I have not, just so the audience is aware, shared any of these questions with you at all.
Wow.
So this will be off the top of your head.
Wow.
Let's get to know you a little bit more.
Love it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So, as Russ said, my name's Joseph, and my wife, Nicole, and I have 2 kids, Haddon and Ivy. Haddon is 4.
Mm-hmm.
Ivy is 2. We have been married for 8 years. Just celebrated. Yeah. And we met in Bible college, same college you went to.
Small world.
Small world, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, so we've lived in Pennsylvania. We've lived in Florida. Most recently, we were in Vancouver, British Columbia, and spent a little time in Portland. And now we are here in Spokane.
The great metropolis of Spokane.
The great
Washington.
metropolis. I mean, I've only been here for 3 weeks, but
Right.
wow.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The McDonald's right there.
Across the
Domino's is right there.
Yeah.
It's going to be great for youth.
Oh, it's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to put up a little video of your family,
Yep.
or a little picture
Totally.
on the video. So hopefully everyone got to see Haddon and Ivy, cutest little stinking kids. Haddon started preschool.
Started preschool. It was actually crazy.
YWCA.
Yep. That's right.
Yep.
With teacher Lauren
Love
and
it.
teacher Ryan, both unbelievable. Yeah, we got on the ground, and within less than a week, we were like, healthcare was coming together, and Haddon with elementary school, and we already had people providing us meals, and like we've moved around a lot over the last years together, but this is by far the most welcome and the most hospitable community we've ever been a part of. So
Love it.
it was just amazing how everything fell into place. And yeah, so Haddon's in preschool. Ivy's just running around as a 2-year-old home alone with mom most of the days. And we're loving life so far.
Awesome. Well, obviously these questions I'm going to ask you, the exception to the rule is always Jesus. You're right.
Yes.
The Sunday school answer. So when I say
Jesus.
who have been a few of the most influential people to you, obviously the first answer, Jesus.
Yes.
But then apart from Jesus,
yes.
what would you say? A few people that have been most influential, and why?
Yes. I think top 2, definitely my dad has been hugely influential. Yep. I come from what I like to call an embarrassingly amazing family. Both my parents love each other. They've been married forever. My dad was a pastor, great man, loves the Lord. I grew up with a great love for the church and for the Lord and scripture and all of that. And so from a very young age, I just grew to love Jesus, and that was mostly because of my dad. And then ironically, I think the second one would be you, which tears. But seriously, I've been on a very interesting journey in my ministry career, and I haven't been able to have a lot of touch points with people who not only I've known personally, but have known what it's like to be in my shoes. And I've been someone who is very interested in thinking about and learning and kind of having vision for doing ministry in a different way than maybe I grew up in or the denomination that I was a part of. And so you may not know this, but Russ has been kind of one of my mentors and spiritual directors for probably low-key like a decade, but more intentionally probably like 5 or 6 years.
Right.
As I've just been kind of, the Lord's been working in me, and I've been developing and growing as a leader and as a pastor and in ministry. And so those would be two people that I know personally. People that I don't know personally, I have grown a lot to really be thankful for Pete Scazzaro, who does a lot of work with emotional health.
Yeah, emotionally healthy leader, Christian, church, etc.
Yeah. His wife Jerry wrote a book called The Emotionally Healthy Woman that actually transformed my life. In a weird way. It should not be titled The Emotionally Healthy Woman because it is for everybody. But I went through a really discouraging last couple years, and that book was really, my wife bought it for her own emotional health, and then I snuck and read it, and I was Jerry. And so that couple together, just the way that they've done ministry in Queens, and it's rare to find somebody, I think, who's in his late 60s who is still trucking, who is still like faithful to his church and his wife and hasn't had any like scandal or whatever. Like, that's amazing.
And he would attribute that to the hard inner work of emotional health.
Yeah.
That he went through a season where he wasn't healthy.
Yes.
And in some ways his ministry and life was careening off the walls. And then he really leaned into what does it look like to become emotionally healthy and then to have ministry flow out of that place.
Yeah, which I think is so important. And we both kind of grew up in a culture where ministry was 24/7 and God is always working, so we're always working. And there was just this emphasis on always like doing and accomplishing and working and serving people. And while all of that is great and has its place, like I never really, even in seminary, like we never talked about Sabbath. We never talked about like the contemplative. We never talked about slowing and like centering prayer and all these like things that in the last 2 or 3 years have really given life to myself, my own union with Jesus, my marriage, my family, and also my ministry. And the church just really, at least in the denominations kind of that we run in and the tribes that we're a part of, that's not something that's really like emphasized. And so I had to do a lot of unlearning and a lot of like reworking of my framework of what ministry is and how to do it effectively and what the role of a pastor is and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, he is, Pete and Jerry have really just transformed the way that I do ministry, and have really grown to, they've opened me up to St. Benedict and a lot of the monastic movement and the Desert Fathers and Mothers, and a lot of those are unnamed. They're just like collections of prayers like that.
An Ignatian spirituality.
Yeah, exactly. All of that. There's actually there's a monastery like very close to where we live. I think it's only a couple blocks, but I'm like, I need to hook up with the monastery down the road and learn spirituality more. So, yeah. So, I mean, there are plenty more, but I think those are some of the surface that I think recently have been really impactful for me.
Yeah.
Just as I learn what it means to be a husband and a father and, a follower of Jesus and all that. So.
Right. So flashback for the audience, just so that people know the connection a little bit. Shannon's youth pastor was Joseph's father. So the one he just described as being the most influential person in his life was the one that had a significant influence on my wife. And after Shannon and I met in college, we moved to Indiana, where you grew up, first part of your life. And worked for your dad. I was an intern for 2 years. Probably worked more hours as an intern.
Then definitely you should have.
One than I should have. But yeah, I mean, it's in some ways been all downhill since then, right?
Totally.
In terms of the amount of effort and energy and ministry is life and is a passion, and changing and being a part of what God is doing is significant. But your dad is one of the guys I list as one of the more influential people in my life as well. So that's how we know each other. So that's back to 97. Before that, I know that I even met you probably at a TLC or something when your family came. I think at a snow camp even we met. So that would have been like 94. How old are you?
Yeah, I would have been 5.
Yeah, 5 years old.
Yeah.
So I've known you since you were 5. And then we lived in the same area in Indiana for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Then the weird part and wrinkle of the story is where I moved from is where when you were 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, going into the summer before my 6th grade.
Okay.
year.
Then you moved to the hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania that I grew up in.
Yep.
We went to the same church.
Same church.
Same schools.
Go Comets.
That's right. Abingtonites Comets forever.
Let's go.
And so in some ways, like, we swapped lives where we grew up, and your dad worked with my dad at college, and just a crazy small world that we're in. So that, just for you listening or watching, that's a little how we all are connected in a unique way. So shifting gears, tell me how small group or living in community, how has that influenced your life? The idea of sharing life with other people, how has that influenced you?
Yeah. Well, like I said, my Bible college, seminary, and really first 2 jobs in ministry were very much a style of ministry that was kind of like, you're the leader at the top, and everybody else, you kind of teach them what it looks like to follow Jesus, like you follow Jesus.
Right.
And so, and both of those are great, and I grew a lot from those experiences and the people that I was able to work with and serve alongside. But there wasn't a huge emphasis on like actually doing life together. Right. It was more like, come to our Sunday school or come to this youth group or whatever. And we would meet maybe once a month, but, you know, I don't think Nicole and I, either of us would say that was kind of a space where we really grew in our, not just philosophy, but also the incarnation of doing life together in ministry. Right. And so I think when we moved to Vancouver, British Columbia, which is where, you know, I think a lot of our experience and growth happened. That was the first time that we were involved with a ministry specifically that we kind of like prioritized. Okay, our leaders need to be a part of our life. Yep. And we were in a large church. It was a mega church. It was me and Nicole, and then probably 15 other youth leaders, and, you know, anywhere from 50 kids plus, depending on the time that we were there. And that's when we realized, like, man, we can't just like show up to stuff and then like just do ministry and then go about, everybody just disperse and go about their normal life. Like, we really have to incarnate this model of small groups and community and discipleship in the context of life, not just an event that you kind of show up to. Right. And I really grew in that in Portland. We moved from Vancouver into Portland, and we were going to a church called Bridgetown, and they had a huge emphasis on community, probably more so than most churches. I mean, we did communion in community. Right. So we didn't do it on Sundays. We did it all in like in our small groups. Yep. All of our kind of Sunday material was geared towards practices that we would do in the context of community. Right. And we were leaders in that community, and we had a small group that we kind of worked with, and that was every week, weekends, you know, going to the park together. That was like going out to restaurants together. That was praying with each other, taking, you know, communion together. And it was very hard, and it was very challenging because it wasn't like just our friends. It wasn't the people that looked like us and were in the same stage of life, in the same skin color, in the same socioeconomic standing. It was so diverse, and we had people that were, some were a long time following Jesus. Other people were kind of exploring. Some people, we had a couple who was like houseless, like 6 months before joining our community. And so they were like learning what it meant to like have a stable housing situation and showing up to things. And that was like, it was just beautiful, but I don't want to romanticize it.
It's messy.
It's so messy.
Yeah, always.
And it was hard, but I think the more that I was in it, the more that I realized, I think this is like this was like the Gospels, right?
Totally.
This is what Jesus was calling his followers to, was not like show up to synagogue on Saturdays and like hear me talk.
Right.
But it was like, no, you're getting the dust of your rabbi like on your sandals. You're like walking with someone all the time, texting, popping in here and there, letting somebody do their laundry at your home. Like, it's kind of an open door policy.
It's way more difficult. I mean, what you and I were trained in terms of seminary and grad school experience is they've got questions, you've got answers.
Yes.
So if you have the answer, then you just stand at the lectern, pulpit, up front, whatever different context you're in. You deliver what they need to hear. Then you challenge them with that. Sometimes you have relationship, but relationship is for the purpose of them opening up even more so that you might continue to help them live their life. What I love is you started to invest in a different way with your youth leaders, because certainly you can't do that with the whole church. You never can. But then you experienced in Portland what it looks like to live all of life with whoever.
Yes.
Not just people you invite into it, but people who randomly join your group or sign up or are moved into the neighborhood. And it's those people that you're always with and around. And honestly, that's what I love about New Community is that we try to live into what it looks like to have messy discipleship, right? Where we want to share life. And that's what has made, in some ways, this pandemic maybe more challenging for I'll just speak for myself, more challenging from a leadership perspective for me than it does for some of my friends who are a part of churches throughout the Midwest that, you just keep delivering the goods on a Sunday and you've just changed the format. And that's the expectation. But here we want to share life much more. And so it's more challenging when you have less interaction to really encourage one another.
Yeah. And that's also what was really very new for me in Portland was when we transitioned out of Vancouver to Portland, I wasn't in ministry. So vocational ministry. I wasn't a pastor.
Right.
And so we moved to Portland. I got a job at the mall selling mattresses. We were in a place where we were like trying to figure out our life. What are we going to do? And being in community without being a quote unquote pastor, being on the like payroll of a church, but still investing in ministry and having a pastoral role was a very new experience for me. And one that I think also kind of like recalibrated how I saw being a pastor and working for a church and living in community and how I saw leadership. And all of those things were really radically, I think, altered for me in a negative way because I was like, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
But also now looking back in a super positive way because it helped me see ministry and community and incarnational life as being something beyond that I like get paid to do.
Right.
I know that's new.
Yeah. I know one of the things in the interview process that you expressed as being exciting or you are eager to step into is a new community. We very much do not believe in the separation of laity from clergy.
Yes.
So a lot of ministry is kind of the clergy is up here, they do their thing, and then the common laity is separated. We view it very much that it is the laity out in front. They're the ones doing the work of the ministry, and it is our responsibility to come alongside of, to coach, to encourage, to participate with, so that the whole church moves forward together, versus the leader moving forward and everyone just saying, keep it going, you're great, we love it, versus what we're trying, which is as a community to keep moving forward together.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think that's probably closer to what Paul meant when he talks about like, follow me as I follow Christ.
Right.
Which is not follow me and become a pastor,
right,
and preach sermons on Sunday or whatever. Like, follow me as I follow Christ has to look very different, because 99% of the population of the world are not pastors.
Yeah.
They're not in like vocational ministry. They're not getting a paycheck from the church. And so I think that's beautiful when we can kind of incarnate that and be like, hey, this is part of who I am and part of what I do and part of how I see my vocation, but it is not who I am.
Yes.
And it is not what I do.
Yep.
And that was like a really beautiful vision for me, and was something that I've always kind of wanted, but I was never really ready to make the like, take that step of faith and the risk of that.
Sure.
Because it's like you said, it's messy and it's hard and it's not easy and it's not safe.
Yeah.
And I think that's what also makes it like beautiful, is like, all right, I just got to like step out and see what happens and trust the Lord to provide.
Right.
So, yeah.
Love it. Shifting gears. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
The best compliment I've ever received. I don't actually get a lot of compliments about, man, I think the one I get the most often is, your kids are so cute.
Sure.
Your kids are so, I love their
Which
hair.
Doesn't necessarily compliment you.
Doesn't compliment me. But that's what I mean. Most spaces that I'm in, they're like looking at my kids or looking at my wife, because everyone in my family is what most people say unique.
Mm-hmm.
And you could probably tell that from the picture.
Mm-hmm.
They're not Swedish like me. They aren't of European descent, which is beautiful. Greatest compliment, I don't know. We raise support, and one of the things that happens in that is we have tried to like contact people that we've done ministry with in the past and just be like, hey, we're stepping into this new space. We would love for you to like both pray with us, but also financially support us. And we have 2 of our youth from Canada who are supporting us at $5 a month.
Love it.
And that's probably one of the biggest compliments that I've ever received, because they're not in youth anymore. They're both like working and in university. Shout out Joanna and Reese. Love you. But they are like kind of, they're not making a ton of money. They're not like in these spheres where they can just like give a lot. But they were able to like, I think, have the posture of, Joseph and Nicole, really, their ministry meant a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have much to give, but like, I believe in what you guys are doing. And so here's my like kind of widow's mite.
Totally.
And that's probably one of the greatest compliments, because, that's a gallon of milk. But also on the flip side of that, that is just like so encouraging to me that like, it may not be the most amazing ministry ever. And, it's not like everyone's like, yo, share the secret of how you were so successful.
Sure.
But you just look at these little pockets of ways that you kind of like laid your life down for the good of of the people that you're shepherding and see like kind of an immediate return in that is really encouraging.
No, it's an amazing.
Yeah. So,
amazing.
And I love the little $5. You know, the 500s are amazing, but the 5s are, you know, are just as amazing in a different way. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. 3 people, dead or alive, that you would want to have dinner with. Again, excluding Jesus.
Excluding Jesus. Beyonce. Absolutely.
Okay.
Are these all? Are we at a table, or am
Yeah.
I able to have 3 different?
Wait, 3 different dinners?
Yeah, with
3
one
solo
people,
dinners?
or we're like all
Well,
together.
I think Nicole would come to that one too, right? With Beyonce.
I mean, she'd probably have to, but I'd be like, I want to talk to Beyonce myself. Because if Nicole came to my dinner with Beyonce, it would kind of become Beyonce and Nicole.
Sure.
And I would just be an afterthought.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get my time with Beyonce.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And so I would.
But if you invited Jay-Z, then you could.
I mean, if Sean is there, then it's a different story.
Sure.
Then it's like a double date. Now
Right.
we're talking like, yo, are we gonna get to the yacht? Like, are we hanging out in Barbados? What's going on? Yeah. So Beyonce for sure.
All right, 2 more.
2 more. I would say, probably a guy named Chris Thiele. He's a mandolin player. He's a
Okay.
musician.
Okay.
And I've been a huge fan of his music since I was like 8.
Okay.
And he was a prodigy, and he is in a bunch of different bands and music. And he's like kind of a genius. He is a genius,
Mm-hmm.
but I would just love to pick his brain about his life and how does he see music, and the way he like just does life is amazing.
Does he write his own, or does he just
Oh
play
yeah,
other
and
people's, or-
he performs with like symphony orchestras and also does like jazz. And what is amazing is he just takes the mandolin, which is an acoustic instrument.
Mhm.
It's got 4 strings, but 8 really, because a mandolin has 2 of each.
Mhm.
It's very small,
Right.
and yet it seems very one-dimensional. Like you play folk music, you play country music, that's what that instrument is.
Right.
And
It's
he's
been pigeonholed to a particular
yes,
format.
and he's kind of been like, no, this is like a genre-less instrument that can go beyond like anything that you can think about.
Mhm.
And I just have so much respect for people, but specifically musicians who are able to see the world outside of like these boxes, and am able to be like, yeah, I can go play with the London Symphony Orchestra, but I'm also going to cover Britney Spears' Toxic on the same instrument and do totally different vibes.
Right.
And I love that. I think it's amazing.
Now, did I told you about Oliver Arnolds? Have I told you?
Yes. Well, I know who that is, but
Also amazing.
yes.
Some of the stuff he's doing from Iceland, for those of you interested, unbelievable. Hooking a computer up to the piano to accompany him while he plays a keyboard.
Yes.
Insane.
It's just crazy how people are able to think so far in front of the
Yes.
traditional ways to do
Yeah.
anything, not just music, but like
Right.
cooking or food
Yeah.
or politics or culture, like
Theology.
theology. Yeah. And I
It's
think
inspiring.
I've always been someone who I like to think that way, even though I'm definitely not as like gifted as other people who really step into those spaces. I've always kind of thought in a way that's like, let's think kind of like outside of what we've always done or whatever. And I think that's why I resonate so much with you
Sure.
and why you've been so influential in my life, is just because that's a really risky but also beautiful way of like doing life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Beyonce, Chris Thiele,
Third and final.
Third and final. I don't know. We may have to give a little Jeopardy music because I need to think more about this. Because I mean, it's really just Beyonce, and then probably
There's got to be some dead German theologian. No.
I was like, if you would ask me in seminary,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been like, John Calvin, Luther, Saint Augustine. But probably not as much anymore. I'll just keep it.
What about Pete?
Oh, Pete would be amazing,
There you
but
go.
I would be very nervous about Pete because I feel like I'd sit down and he'd see right through me.
He would
and
ask a soul-penetrating question.
Yeah,
and
he
then
would
you'd
just be like,
stumbling.
"How's your soul?" And I would just be like, he'd be up there. But I think if I had to choose between Pete and Michelle Obama, I'd probably pick Michelle.
Yeah.
Like Barack's awesome, but
Sure.
I mean, if you're sitting at a table with Beyonce, Michelle Obama, and Chris Thiele, come on.
Yeah. I think both you and Chris would be pretty intimidated.
We would be outside of our league for sure. Yeah. And it would be it'd be an interesting conversation.
Power players right there.
Yeah, those are some. I mean, I went straight to the top. This is my my dead or alive lunch. They'd
Right.
all be alive.
Yeah. Well, that's even better.
Yeah. Because I feel like dead would also present certain challenges. But
Sure.
anyways.
Love it. Love the list. Okay. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would be on it and why?
Now.
Yeah, a billboard. It could be in Times Square.
It's a dangerous question.
Totally. It could be in Times Square. It could be downtown Spokane. It could be. You can name the place, or it could just be in general. This is the billboard that I would want, and why.
Man, I think there are so many things, and in our current cultural climate, there are a lot of things that,
again, excluding John 3:16,
John 3:16, and I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes. Besides,
if you were to die today, where would you spend eternity?
Right.
Other than www.new-community.com/youth-ministry.
There you go.
If it wasn't going to be that, that would probably be my number one.
Right.
If it wasn't going to be that, oh man.
It's a tough question.
That is a very tough question.
I know.
Because I think my initial knee-jerk reaction would be something political, like Black Lives Matter. But I know that hits people different ways.
Sure. And some love that, some hate that.
Some love it and some hate it, which is why I think it makes a great billboard.
Sure.
I
don't want an entirely divisive billboard.
I don't want to divide everybody. But I also I don't know what I would say, but I would want it to be something that wouldn't have a specific, necessarily like an outcome. Like a question or a phrase that would just cause somebody to look at it and be like, what does that mean? Or like, what is truth? Or something like, like that doesn't have necessarily like a Jesus spin or like a voting spin, but I don't know what it would say, but I would definitely want it to be something that would cause people to like really think about it. Like I saw a billboard one time that was, if you could solve this algorithm, like then you could get a job at Google. And it was a billboard that was essentially like
a job posting,
but nobody really, unless you knew what you were looking for, you didn't know that's what it was. But then it was Google's way of basically being like, we're not going to send out resumes. We're going to weed this out and it was in LA or something like legit. And whoever got it was like, oh, I know that formula, or I can figure out that website. And it was just like a domain name, but you typed it in, you wrote your email or whatever, and like you got this software engineering job at Google. And it was just that's an amazing strategy or something. So that's a great question. I don't know what I would probably just put up a picture of my kids, maybe with our Patreon account of like support us monthly. Patreon.com/the Petersons.
Yeah, totally.
And if you like these kids, you're going to love what we're doing in Spokane.
Exactly.
So like support us.
I would say if I don't know exactly what would be on my billboard. I just know that at this season of life, I would want whatever was written or shown to give some hope or encouragement.
Yes.
Something that people would walk away having been bettered by seeing it or thinking about it, or it might resonate with them in a certain way. That brings hope and vitality to life. Because I think during this season, that's what we could all use a little bit more of.
Absolutely. And a picture of Haddon Ivy would definitely give hope to the world.
For sure.
Yeah.
If you hopefully saw it.
You saw the pic. Here's another one.
Excellent. Well
Look at
done.
that.
Well done.
Wow.
Check that out.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm going to just wrap up with a few questions that the youth might want to know.
Yes, love it.
Okay. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food, really anything that Nicole makes. Nicole is a absolutely phenomenal cook. I love tacos.
Mm-hmm.
I love my wife makes this butternut squash soup that is just unbelievable with some aardvark hot sauce. Have you ever heard of aardvark?
No.
I think you can only get it in Portland because that's where we found it. And people travel to Portland to get aardvark because I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can get it. I don't think so. But a little bit of aardvark in that with some. My wife now has stepped into the bread making game as well, and I'm telling you what. When was the last time you had home cooked, fresh bread? Is Shannon a
2
artisan?
2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Tara Knight.
Oh, Tara. I do know Tara. Shout out Tara.
Yep. Sourdough starter. Amazing.
Nicole she's not in the starter game. Hers is more the long form flour rising game.
Got it.
But yeah, I also really, really love French fries.
Okay.
French fries, I would probably say, out of everything, is my meal of choice.
Okay. Comfort food.
They got to be right, though. Shoestring.
Okay.
Maybe battered. Or anything from Chick-fil-A. I'm also a huge Chick-fil-A fan. Coming soon. Let's go.
All right. I would ask favorite artist, but you've kind of already mentioned 2 of them.
Yes.
So no need.
Yep.
Maybe best movie or most recent movie that you enjoyed that you would recommend.
My favorite movie of all time is a movie called The Village, which I
M.
know
Night
gets
Shyamalan?
it gets a really bad rep.
Sure.
And a lot of people hate it, but I think it's absolutely unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nuanced. It's so deep. So many layers.
Shout out M. Night.
Shout out to M. Night. You've had some strikeouts, but you've also...
But listen, no great artist can...
If you're not striking out, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
M. Night's going to love that when he sees this.
Yeah, thanks. Shout out to my boy M. Night.
All right. Favorite word? Do you have a favorite word?
Favorite word? I have told our story a few times, and I've said the word dinks, and it stands for dual income, no kids. So it refers to a married couple who are both working full time and don't have any children. Therefore, their income is going towards just the life of them two.
Just right.
And I just think it's a great abbreviation. It's like we were just a couple of dinks in Florida.
Yeah.
And you could take that so many different ways, but if you know, dual income, no kids, that's a great word.
Game changer.
It's a game changer. I'm also a big fan of abbreviations.
Yeah.
So youth can really expect a lot of breves.
Okay.
In our
You know who else is? Kevin. Kevin likes to word mash.
Yeah.
Put 2 different words together and make one word out of it.
You know what one I just used in a texting conversation recently was nog ship.
Nog ship. No, I don't.
Monogamous relationship.
Oh.
Yo, I'm in this nog ship.
Got
with
it.
Nicole.
There you go.
Nog ship.
Learning something new on the podcast today.
I love it.
Let's see. Final question.
Yes.
If you could why should youth at New Community not only engage in the youth group,
Yes.
but invite friends to engage in it as well, besides words like nog ship?
Nog ship is going to be, you're going to need a lot of those.
Besides that, or dinks, why
Yes.
should they be engaged in New Community youth?
I would say that one of the reasons I would encourage youth to take part in what we are going to be doing at Newcom Youth, and also consider inviting other people to be a part of it, is because Newcom Youth has been and is going to continue to be a place where you as a youth are accepted and affirmed and encouraged, not only in who you are, but also in who you are becoming.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of space in culture where students especially are accepted if they adhere to a certain standard.
Mm-hmm.
So if they act a certain way, or if they have a certain athletic ability,
Sure.
or if they can get the certain grades, or if they have a certain sexual or gender identity, or if they can kind of fit the box or the
social
mold,
norms.
yes,
Mhm.
of what we expect of you, then you can like be one of us.
Mhm.
And Newcom Youth is a place where we don't have any of those like social norms that you have to be a part of. I mean, you don't even have to know what you believe about God or Jesus or
Right.
faith or anything like that. And I think that's a really rare community to be a part of.
Mhm.
And I think Newcom in a lot of ways embodies that
Mhm.
as a whole community, which is one of the reasons I love this place and this team and the leaders that we have here. But that's what I see a lot of in the life and teachings of Jesus, is him calling people to explore what they think about the kingdom of God and follow him as he over time encourages them to grow into who they are. And I just think that's such a beautiful vision for youth, because the pandemic has forced us all to be insecure, uncertain middle schoolers. Like we're all
Sure.
just grown up junior hires,
Yeah.
and we know how to fake it. But I think one of the things that this kind of cultural moment is showing us is that the fear, the insecurity, the anxiety, the loneliness that we often associate with like a middle schooler or a high schooler is really all of us.
Yep.
We just have a lot of other things that we kind of like numb ourselves with.
Sure.
Whereas a middle or high schooler isn't necessarily mature enough to numb themselves in all these other ways that we
Right.
tend to as like adults. And so I think that has really leveled the playing field in terms of like, you're trying to figure out distance learning. I'm trying to figure out my job
Right.
and my relationships and finance and dating and all of these. You know, I think there's been a leveling of
Mhm.
people, and we don't really see, I hope that one thing that this new like season of life, whatever life looks like in the future, oh, we got a Pence fly here. Whatever like the new thing that we're stepping into in our future is just kind of like the field is level. We're all welcome to the table. All of us are going through our own stuff, and we don't have a specific story or anything like that that prohibits us from those kind of things. And I think that's a beautiful vision, and I think we can really work at middle and high school. Like, let's start to learn those lessons now, so that as we mature and grow and develop, we now know what to look for in a community that we want to be a part of moving forward, whether it's in Spokane or other places.
Right.
So,
So I would say this, youth and parents, if you have not yet signed up for the Skinny, which is the youth newsletter, that has been going out. Joseph's been communicating. Make sure you sign up for that online. In addition to that, you started a podcast. The 3 episodes that are out already.
3 episodes, yeah.
Kind of like a hello episode, and then an introduction to students and an introduction to parents.
Yep.
I would highly encourage you to check those out. It gives you a little bit of the vision behind what youth group's going to look like, what it means to be a part of the community, and kind of envisioning what the future looks like for youth ministry. Also, you started an Instagram account, I believe, or took over the Instagram account, so that's going as well. All of that you can access via the website, I believe, and also went out via the newsletter.
Totally.
So thanks for tuning in to our midweek video cast, and we're excited that you were here, and we'll see you on Sunday.
Peace.